Wake up, rise and shine. It's a brand new day with Mona News. It's time to have your say. She's got the scoop, the stories, all the latest trends. Mo's got the news, let's hear it. My dear friends, from politics to showbiz, no story's too small. Mo covers it all. She's got the inside call, her voice so smooth, like honey in the summer sun. With Mo on the mic, you know the news is always fun. Mornings with Mo, the best newsy news in the world. With her style so classic and her stories unfurled, from morning till night, she's got us in the know. Turn on your radio, let Mo's newsy news flow.
Well, good morning. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for all of those who served and all of those who, support people that serve. So, welcome today. A little bit of a kerfuffle here because Mo was like, the kids have never had school on Veterans Day. And Mr. Mo was like, of course they have school today. What is wrong with you? So the boys did, in fact, have school. Now, some might say that Mr. Mo was right. But what you guys don't realize is that, I was on my way to also being right. Just kidding. I was totally wrong. As per usual, Mr. Mo is kind enough to not, say I told you so most of the time. And he found a pair of scissors, like the gift that keeps on giving. uh, he's taking some time off this morning before he has to go into work to, clean up the laundry room, which if you have 8 people in a house, the laundry room gets crazy. So, our first story, I know this came out last week, but I do tend to try to pick these up. So, the star of Candyman, Tony Todd, has passed away at 69. Looks like actor Tony Todd, best known for his starring role in Candyman and the Final Destination films, has passed away. The news was confirmed by his wife, Fatima, who revealed that Todd passed away while in his home in Marna del Rey, California on Wednesday, November the 6th. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Todd's wife said he died after a long illness, but with no kind of details about what that illness might have been. The industry has lost a legend, and we lost a cherished friend. New Line Cinema, which produced the Final Destination franchise, wrote in a statement on Instagram. Rest in peace, Tony, the post concluded, signed your Final Destination family. In addition to Final Destination, Todd was also known for another horror franchise, The Candyman, starring as the eponymous hook-wielding ghost from the 1992 film, as well as the 1995 sequel, Candyman Farewell to the Flesh. He also appeared in the 2021 remake produced by Jordan Peele. More of Todd's extensive acting credits are included in his film debut in 1986's Sleepwalk, and appearances on 1990's Night of the Living Dead, 1996 The Rocks, 1994's The Crow, Hatchet, Frankenstein in 2015, and 2019's Candy Corn, and many more. Todd also appeared as Kern in Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and as Alpha Higorin on Star Trek Voyagers. So he also did Young and the Restless, Criminal Minds, and Charmed. Tony was a masterful actor who was truly chameleonic. He prepared for every role with the utmost meticulousness. Rael Dowell, who directed Todd in 2012's Changing the Game. One second. Every time I think I'm not gonna sound like Pilchuck, Mr. Mo is our disposal is not great. Our pipes are from 1971, so we have learned that if you have leftover stew or things like that from the crock pot, you have to dump it out in the toilet. So you welcome to the magic and glamour that is Mo's house. It just, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes you just have to work with what your house can do, and I learned the hard way that garbage disposal does not mean disposal. It simply means, yeah, that'll break if you put it down it, which I contend should be illegal. If it is a disposal, I want an Evinrude outboard motor on that thing, and I want to be able to put, like, potato peelings and carrot peelings and all this, sundry stuff in there and you know, just so welcome to Hillbilly Engineering. I hope that his family is doing okay. You know, I was not a big fan of horror movies, so I can tell you honestly that I am not sure that I've ever actually seen Candyman or Final Destination beyond what I've remembered, by not driving behind any pipe and or lumber trucks. But I know he was a big actor and a lot of people loved horror, so I hope that, his family is getting all the support and help they need, uh, this m dealing with this. Now, on to another person who probably wishes that he acted half as well as Candyman. Well, a missing Wisconsin father of 3 faked his disappearance and fled to another country, because that's just, what you do apparently. Look, he had a lot of Kohl's cash, and they were looking for him. A Wisconsin father of 3 who vanished during a kayaking trip in August faked his disappearance and fled the country, abandoning his grieving wife and children who feared the worst, local authorities announced Friday. Ryan Borgwart, 45. You know what Mo would have to say? You better hope you are passed away, because I swear to goodness, if you are hiding out in some country, you better stay in that country, because it's not going to be a theoretical disappearance should you come back and you did this to me. Was reported missing by his family on August the 12th following a kayak trip at Green Lake. He never returned and was initially believed to have drowned. The Green Lake County Sheriff's Office said during a press conference Friday afternoon. I just saw that. That'll have to be a nightly newsy news stuff, but because of course, what the heck is going on with the world? An overturned kayak and life jacket that the authorities believed have been belonging to the missing father were eventually recovered, and his dog was also found near Dodge Memorial Park. Oh, so that's where they bury Dodges. I always knew there was a way. But as local law enforcement and dives teams scoured the waters, Borgwart fled to Europe. And thank you so much, Iron Rabbit, for being a member for 1 month. You better move all the way to Bolivia, because you fake your own death on me. We're going to make that not a fake, passing. It's just not going to be okay. The sheriff's office finally got a lead when its investigators took a new approach in early October and began scouring computer files and even international partnerships. And thank you for gifting 5 memberships. And those went to the Riza Angel, Cindy, Danielle, Margie Childers, and Kazoodles. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Church of Mo. We have dark chocolate, no garbage disposal with an outboard Evinrude motor, but we are working on it. And apparently not a husband that's trying to hide in Europe. I mean, could be worse. So it started looking into, his business filing and international partnerships. Now, probably because they're telling us that he tried to hide his own death, they found, his Google file of where to run away to. In their search, officials found that the missing father's name had been checked by law enforcement in Canada the day after he was reported missing. His laptop had the most evidence, leaving a lengthy digital trail for authorities to follow. Bolgwart had been communicating with a woman from Uzbekistan online, opening a whole new bank account and looking to move funds to foreign banks. He had wiped his computer, but the digital footprint remained. Oh, he did not get an incognito mode. Oh, hell to the no. Bring his behind back here, hogtied, and let Wifey Poo deal with him. Because I'm okay with Wifey Poo dealing with his ridiculous behind. The missing father's plot was elaborately planned. He'd even acquired a new passport in late May and left his original one at home before his kayaking trip. It's not immediately clear how long Bourgeois was planning to flee his entire family for a new life abroad, with hopefully abroad. Oh, well, thank you so much and congratulations. You better be bringing her home some, like, kick-ass chocolate. I mean, it's still not gonna get you out of the doghouse, sir, but you better have more to show than, "I met this chick in Uzbekistan, and all I got was my wife wanting to start a Snapped episode." It's not immediately clear how long he'd been planning this new life, but his digital trail dated back at least 7 months when he inexplicably purchased a $375,000 life insurance policy in January. Oh, hell to the no. Everyone gets to pimp hand this man. All search efforts for Borgwat in Wisconsin have ended, but authorities believe that since he fled to Europe, they are pleading for him to return on behalf of his family. Quote, Ryan, if you're viewing this, I plead that you contact us or contact your family. We understand that things can happen. No, the hell we do not understand that things can happen. You better get his mama on the line and you better say, you better call in 5 seconds. Moms are scary. But there's a family here who wants their dad back. Not anymore. But there you go. Looks like this guy decided he was gonna go to Uzbekistan and start a new life with Borat, I guess. Don't do this. Divorce, you, you make your wife and your kids think that you're dead. What kind of a-hole of a human being are you? I would want you back so I could make that thought a reality for you, since that seems to be where you were going. That would be just me. And thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships, Michelle, and those went to Nala Stole the Spoon, Miss O, Annie Ruler, Annette, and Brett. So congratulations. Welcome to the Church of Mo. We have dark chocolate, dark humor, and don't be pretending you're dead on us, because we will bring you back from Uzbekistan just to make that a reality. Oh, come on, internet. Don't be a butt. All the children are gone. You shouldn't be sad today. So, Florida is back in the news, but mostly for ghost lights that have been haunting unsuspecting drivers for 6 decades. I'm going with I hope it's aliens, but I'm sure they'll explain how swamp water and lightning and physics work together to make this all go. Florida's inexplicable ghost light phenomenon has been haunting drivers for 6 decades and counting, still with no explanations for its cause, as motorists prepare for its potential reappearance in the coming winter months. The Oviedo lights have been reported on Snow Hill Road, a straight shot connecting Chilutha, Florida, and Geneva, Florida, since the 1960s, according to local Florida historian Jason Byrne. The blue lights appear primarily in winter, mostly around midnight, and are always approaching from the south on the bridge over the oh, what in the actual heck is this word? Inland Chinachí River. Look, some kind of river. The lights make it appear as if there's an upcoming car, except with the brightness of a train, headlight, according to a blog post written by the historian. Yeah, that would be a okay. I think we can solve this problem. Everyone stay off the haunted bridge around midnight. I mean, I can't explain to you with math or physics what's happening, but just stay off El Haunted Bridge or get, 10 Rastafarian priests, a couple Unitarian priests, a couple, Orthodox Catholic, and then regular Catholic, and then maybe a Pentecostal in there. And we sage the shit out of the bridge until it stops happening. As terrifying as the image might sound, the ghost lights legend has been passed down for decades and is still used today as a rumor for teenagers to spread, similar to the story of Bloody Mary. You drive out there and sit in the middle of the night, drink a few beers or whatever it is that teenagers do, and look for these lights, Byrne told News 6. So there's literally generations of people who remember going out there, taking a date or some friends in search of these ghost lights. Because of the open-ended nature of the legend, many have ascribed their own origin stories to explain the lights. Some are simple, like the one that attributes the lights to a car crash that drowned two boys in the river. Other take more creative liberties, like a story that pins the lights to a Cub Scout who wandered away from his troop with a lone lantern and was never seen again. It's called The Man with the Hook Hand Who Escaped from the Mental Institute. I think we are forgetting the hook, handed maniac that I think should be a part of everything. The tragedies in the rumors, while specific in some cases, are unconfirmed. Uh, so they're all tall tales, not one of them, from the lost Cub Scout to the, random two boys getting crashed. But in 1963, 17-year-old Norbert Hinman drove across the bridge with three of his friends to set off some fireworks. When they were finished, one of the friends returned to the car while the other three walked back to the main road. The friend who went to the car didn't turn on the headlights and drove to Maine, towards the others. Two of the teens managed to dive out of the way, but unfortunately, one of the teens was fatally struck and died on the way to the hospital because he didn't turn on his headlights. So maybe not, a Boy Scout, but turn your headlights on if you're driving in the dark. Whether you believe it's the root of the actual ghost story and this kid is haunting, if that's your way of believing, or whatever you think, it's the root ghost story that kicked off all these other stories. So I guess that's up to the reader, he said. The most likely scientific explanation for the phenomenon is tied to the dead vegetation surrounding the lake, which can break down into highly combustible methane that may be the source of the bluish light or a will-o-wisp kind of phenomenon, according to a local outlet. However, no one has, actually tested the swamp, fart theory, and there haven't been any reports of a wisp in over a century. The only time the wisps are ever mentioned during the modern day is more often than not in a Pokemon discussion, as Will of the Wisp is a popular status move in the video games. I don't know anything about Pokemon, so I'm like, oh, is there a Wisp Pokemon? I was like, I have no, but no, apparently that's just a status move. I don't know if you do double XL, WBQ, pause. I have no idea. However, there is still no firm explanation. And, if you want to go to this haunted bridge at about midnight, then maybe you could see some of the swamp fart, phenomena. And you can just figure it out because I'm going with how does it make logical sense? Like, you guys, it's not some crazy Cub Scout or anything like that. It's just it's nature's way of farting. Anywho, just thought that was interesting, and I could barely pronounce anything, uh, in this and it's from Florida, but, those like the Chachi, like the Joni and Chachi River, I have no idea. Now, It seems like we are coming into a real boon of a lot of kind of these older unsolved crimes are going to be getting their Netflix specials. Um, and they're getting ready to do Jean Benet Ramsey next. But I've been noticing a lot of kind of older or colder cases becoming big news here lately. I don't know if that's because of the kind of new leap that we've done with sort of genealogical DNA, but it does seem like a lot of these cases are starting to either get fresh light put on them or just new breakthroughs or just being brought back up again. A girl, 6-year-old, was brazenly abducted from a little league game, and her family waited 30 years for the suspect's arrest. Morgan Nick left her mother's side to catch fireflies with her friends when she vanished. A 60-year-old girl was at a Little League game when she left her mother's side to go catch fireflies with her friends, and unfortunately, that would be the last time she was ever seen again. Morgan Nick went to the game in Alma, Arkansas with her mother, Colleen, on June the 9th, 1995, according to 5 News, KARK, and KATV. When the 2 girls had gone with Morgan to catch fireflies and returned without her, concerns started growing. In the 1995 story from the Associated Press, it was reported that Morgan was last seen by her friends dumping sand out of her shoes near a car. Around that same time, a red pickup truck was driven by a man with a beard was spotted. The AP reported that both Morgan and the truck disappeared around the same time. Quote, I went over to the car. I looked around outside the car, opened the doors, looked inside the car, thinking she had gotten in, Colleen Nick told Unsolved Mysteries. Even at one point, I looked under the car, thinking she has just got to be somewhere. Within a couple of minutes, all of the people and most of the cars were gone, and it was very clear that Morgan wasn't there. The case generated a lot of attention in Arkansas, generating thousands of leads, but after several years, the case went cold and remained unsolved. It's the worst terror that any parent can ever feel, Colleen said, according to Unsolved Mysteries. There's such a sense of nothing being real somehow. It doesn't seem possible that your child could be missing and that someone could have taken your child. But after nearly 3 decades, police have announced there has finally been a break in the case. Let's effing go. Let's get this monster. On October 1st, 2024, Alma police announced at a press conference, which was reported by 5 News, KATV, and KARK, that DNA had led them to a suspect who had unfortunately died in 2000. Billy Jack Links had been questioned 2 months after Morgan's disappearance, citing the police. So this is what we know from at least the original case. At that time, he was being investigated in an attempted kidnapping of another girl weeks after Morgan's. Court records reviewed by People showed that Links was convicted of being gross to a child in 1996. The case of Morgan's disappearance was reopened in 2020. 5 News reported that they had searched a truck that belonged to Lynx after finding its current owner, which bore fruit. So imagine that is 2020. She was lost to the rest of the world, and we didn't know anything from 1999 or 1995. I'm sorry. So imagine it is just so interesting how these people can think they can get away with stuff and these little micro, witnesses, this little DNA or genetic, you know, witness can sit there for 20 something years and still catch this guy. The truck, which was vacuumed for evidence, contained several hairs that were sent to a lab for analysis, according to KATV. Investigators discovered that the hairs belonged to a member of Morgan's family, perhaps even Morgan herself. So, for those of you guys who are not super duper CSI, what they probably had was a hair with no root on it. And from just the dead hair, from just the rootless hair, you can get the mitochondrial DNA, so the DNA that's passed down on the matrilineal line. So this is probably going back to that, genealogical DNA evidence. So it would be really odd for this weird, creepy guy to have any sort of familial related hairs in his old truck. There was no evidence that any other member of the girl's family had ever been inside this particular truck. The findings led the police to announce that they were officially naming Lynx as a suspect in Morgan's disappearance. An army of supporters, advocates, and heroes have rallied to uncover the truth about her disappearance, Colleen Nix said at a press conference, according to KARK. Morgan's Heart Shines On. So I know he's already passed away. I'm sure Satan and Beelzebub are working on him right now to get that attitude change a going. But thank goodness that this family kind of has some answers now, because I can't imagine, 30 plus years always, you know, having that sense of having an empty spot at Thanksgiving and, going to a wedding and think, gosh, what will my daughter's wedding have looked like? And all of this. And it's heartbreaking. And I am so glad that they found maybe a little piece to the puzzle for these families, because it is absolutely insane that someone can just, lie, basically in plain sight for years and years. Now, someone is a good doggo because looks like the dog was able to, well, Scooby-Doo his way out of this one. He figured out who the killer was. Alrighty, let's get. A Kansas man will spend the rest of his life in prison for, well, shooting his cousin and burying her remains, all because he let her faithful Labrador or Labradoodle Titan live. And the dog had a microchip that led, back to the victim and to the killer's arrest. Derek Joseph Danglenote, 29, learned his fate on Thursday in the death of Mandy Rose Reynolds, 26, prosecutors said in a press release. Dagenalt's sentencing was marked by drama when the defendant yelled at the victim's brother and was escorted out, and a fight broke out between members of, the defendant's family and Reynolds' family, according to CBS and Telemundo affiliate KWXT. Like I told the jury, if they knew nothing else about Derek Danglenote other than what he did to Mandy Rose Reynolds, shooting her in the head, driving her body to McClellan County, and setting her on fire like a piece of trash, if that's all they knew about him, that alone would be enough to justify a life sentence, said Brian Calvert, McClellan County District Attorney, after the trial. But once we got to the punishment phase, the jury learned that he had been in trouble his whole life. He was a multiple-time convicted felon, and he'd been in prison in Kansas before for other violent offenses. Then they learned that he had shot another individual as a juvenile. He was just an extremely violent individual and cannot be trusted with the safety of this or any other community. So life, we felt, was the only just verdict. The series of events leading to the murder starting on the morning of April 4th, 2023, when authorities said surveillance video from Walmart showed Danglenote buying a large plastic storage container, a shovel, and a gas can. People, do not buy your murder kits at Walmart. Even in self-checkout. It's going to look real weird when you have like a hatchet, bleach, muriatic acid, a 60-gallon tote, and, gloves. Don't do this. Now, it also showed that he was leaving the store in Reynolds' car and showed Reynolds' dog sticking his head out of the window. Dagnut later killed the woman, buried her remains in the container, and left the dog at the scene of the crime. What a douche. The murder was uncovered on April 5th when police responded to a reported brush fire in a field on Heston Circle in Robinson, just south of Waco, Texas. There, police found a body on fire burned beyond recognition, but what identified the remains was dental records belonging to Reynolds. A white dog was also found nearby, frantically barking at the police, refusing to leave the area and refusing to be corralled. The following morning, after the body had been removed, a resident found the dog sitting on the spot where the burning body had been. This boy just wanted to protect his owner, and this absolute douche nozzle was like total douche nozzle. That person notified animal control officers who learned the dog, Titan, was microchipped and belonged to Reynolds. At Reynolds' apartment, police found that her belongings had been removed and that her white Honda Accord was missing. The car was tracked down in Wichita, Kansas several days later. Local police spotted the vehicle on April 8th and tried to pull it over, but got into a high-speed chase that ended in a crash. The driver ran into a nearby grocery store where he was arrested, hiding on a shelf behind canned goods. He's like, "No, I really am spam. I promise. I am not spam. I am not a person. I am not a fugitive. Here is your spam." What a moron. Now, they also did find a force multiplier on the driver's seat floorboard of Reynolds' car, one authority said was used in the, dirty deed. So I hope that someone is taking care of, Titan the doggo, because he was trying to be the best good boy he could. And, what a douche. What an absolute douche canoe. Sir, you suck so much. Now, I was talking about this with you guys, but Netflix is going to be giving the kind of CSI and true crime makeover to the John Bonet, Ramsey story in a docu-series that aims to finally crack the cold case after 30 years. Now, I know that this was probably my first like whodunit case of my lifetime that I really paid attention to. This 1996. So I was 12 years old, and I remember thinking, "This is such a weird story." And I figured they would have it all figured out because it's like, who's gonna go into someone's house? If you had told me, 12-year-old me that we still wouldn't know what happened to John Benet Ramsey, I would be like, "We have science now. We have science and cable and TGI Friday. We should be able to figure this out in, like, an afternoon." Obviously, that is not the case. 12-year-old me would have been bamboozled and beyond, bemused that we still haven't figured this out. Anyone who watches, reads, or listens to true crime genre knows the John Benet Ramsey case. The 1996 murder of the 6-year-old beauty pageant queen became instantly notorious, not only because of its gruesome nature, but also because no one has been able to solve this. And even now, 30 years later, the internet is still fascinated by what happened to that little girl on a Christmas night in Boulder, Colorado. This November, the search continues in the form of a Netflix new docuseries, Cold Case: Who Killed John Benet Ramsey. The limited series, which will have 3 parts, is the latest in a string of true crime productions that can be found on the streaming platform. But how does Cold Case differ from the previous John Benet Ramsey projects? Will it get us any closer to uncovering the identity of her unaliver? Here's everything what, everyone we know about what's going to be in the project so far, including where the Ramsey case stands today. Netflix new docuseries on John Benet Ramsey will launch on November 25th, 2024, with all parts of the series arriving on the platform at once. So this won't be, something where we can binge it, y'all. We can binge it. We can take a full afternoon and dive right into the case. Okay, so for those who don't know, if you were living under a rock or just didn't have true crime knowledge, Jean Benet Ramsey was a 6-year-old girl who lived in Boulder, Colorado with her parents and her sibling in the 1990s. The morning after Christmas in 1996, her parents woke to discover that Jean-Benet was missing and a ransom note was left inside the house. Now, later that same day, the father discovered her body in the basement where it's alleged that she was SA'd and murdered, although there have been some different kind of conjecture as to whether she was actually SA'd at that time, whether it was a long-standing, pattern of abuse, or if that was what's going on there. So it really depends on who you talk to exactly how this all happened. And I think that's part of the problem is that there's so many different stories from different people, and because the crime scene wasn't put on lock, you had a bunch of family members and friends who came up to start cleaning the crime scene. I think that you're really kind of behind the 8 ball. Now, because the murder happened inside the family's home, Boulder police began investigating family members as potential perpetrators. The fact that JonBenet was a young pageant queen and her mother, Patsy, was a former beauty queen herself only served to raise national interest. This case would have lasted in the regional newspapers for about a week, if not for two elements. Lawrence Schiller, author of a leading biography on the Ramsey case, told the New York Post in 2016. It was the release of the videos of JonBenet in beauty pageants and the release days later of still photos of her in hair and makeup. The tabloids latched onto that. What sustained it? Very simple. The police department said the parents did it, and the DA who said, "I'm not going to prosecute." To this day, the case remains unsolved. Now, nearly 30 years after the murder, the JonBenet Ramsey case remains unsolved. Well, why? Now, according to an analysis by the Los Angeles Times in 2016, at least part of the reasons are missteps made by the Boulder police early in the investigation. Another part of the intense media coverage is the intense media coverage and pressure it placed on the police to come up with a quick answer. In 2008, then District Attorney Mary Lacy publicly exonerated JonBenet's parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, after they found new DNA evidence that suggested that an unidentified male may have committed the crime. The exoneration cleared the whole family of wrongdoing, including JonBenet's brother Burke, who was only 9 years old at the time, but has been previously, and to some people's reckoning, has been the prime suspect for years. And I think we all, if you were in the true crime kind of genre, we remember that really awkward Dr. Phil episode where he was going to crack it with Burke, and Burke did not come off looking, well, relatable, normal, or kind of understandable in that to a lot of people in the general public. Now, it doesn't change the fact that police still don't know who killed JonBenet. The Ramseys still don't know the circumstances that led to the ransom note or the assault or the murder that happened in their own home. The DNA discovered in 2008 does add another layer to the case, but police have not discovered a confirmed match for the DNA, and even if they did, that wouldn't immediately solve the case. I don't think this case is going to be an entirely DNA case, said former District Attorney Stan Garnett. To be able to put together a coherent theory of the prosecution, you're going to have to explain the cause of death, explain the garrote, explain the ransom note, explain the circumstances in which the body was found, and you're going to have to account for how the DNA was found. John Berlinger, the director of Cold Case, Who Killed JonBenet Ramsey, says he aims to examine all elements of the Ramsey case in his new 3-part docuseries. Berlinger was behind Netflix's Conversations with a Killer, which looked at famous serial killers like Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and Jeffrey Dahmer. He also directed Paradise Lost, The Child Murders at Robin Hood's Hills, which is credited with helping exonerate the West Memphis Three and aiding in their release from prison. The murder of JonBenet Ramsey is one of the most publicized cases in recent history. It's been the focal point of books, podcasts, multiple docuseries and TV specials that have tried or claimed that they were going to unearth the truth. It is such a weird and odd case because all of the things that would have to go together for this to be a a kidnapping and have a ransom note. But then also, you kind of have to get into the whole, why would parents do this? And it really is very weird. It is a very weird thing to try to get into this, to try to understand a life which was completely foreign to me. I mean, most families, I think we're friends here. I don't think most families are like jetting off the day after Christmas to go to their own ski chalet. So it was very, very much a kind of odd mix of a bunch of things, innuendo. The fact that she was in beauty pageants was, yes, very salacious. I mean, this was before Honey Boo Boo. This was before a lot of this. So it really does remembering it was such a conflagration of what was doing here. Why were all these people in the house? Your daughter's, allegedly kidnapped and you invite 900 people over to your house. It was such a strange case, and trying to get back to it, it's also remembering kind of, those weren't the times where you could just take a cell phone and like Google, how to not mess up a crime scene. It was just very odd. And it's very odd to think that, she would be about my age now, probably doing a true crime podcast now. It's so weird. Now, so what sets apart Cold Case Who Killed JonBenet Ramsey? Well, according to Dateline, Berlinger's take on the Ramsey case will revisit the case with fresh eyes and look at details related to how law enforcement and the media initially mishandled the investigation. It will also feature interviews with people involved in the case, including JonBenet's father, John Ramsey, as her mother, Patsy Ramsey, did pass away. Many people think they know the JonBenet Ramsey story and have played armchair detective for 3 decades, often callously pointing a finger at the very people who suffered such an unthinkable loss, Berlinger said. Though the unprecedented access and comprehensive multi-year investigation, we revealed deep flaws in how the case was originally handled, resulting in a sea of conspiracy theories that nearly destroyed the Ramsey family for a second time. So definitely, this is going to be one of those cases that people are going to have very strong opinions on. And just like the Madeline McCann story, people are going to have so many criticisms that they lay at the family's feet. The Madeline McCain story, okay, this is just my honest opinion. You can unsubscribe, but you could not pay me a bajillion dollars to sit in a restaurant, yards and yards and yards away from where my children were sleeping in a foreign country, not even have like one of those, little monitors that you can have, on your phone, and just let people go check in every 30 minutes. Never in, you could not I could never in my life see a scenario where Mo would be okay with that. Mo would be like, "You guys go out to have dinner tonight, I'll stay with the kids, and then we'll just rotate." That's me. I do not know. But it did bring up a lot of questions about how much we sexualize young girls. Now, considering that Toddlers and Tiaras is still a show, I don't think, that's going away, but it definitely did make us much more noticeable to, or much more kind of aware of the PDF files out and among us. Because I think they had done sort of a kind of canvas of the adults at these, beauty pageants, and there were some, "We need to see Chris Hansen right now, just sit down" kind of people there. So I definitely think that, it brought to the national discussion, kind of what are these pageants? What are we doing? Why are we treating our young girls like this? And I wish I could say that we've gotten better, but I've just tried to go shop for, 3 teen girls, and I can find nary a full shirt anywhere. It's always, crop tops and shorty shorts. So how we've, actually moved on from this, I don't know, but it will be interesting to see what this new thing comes, but I don't think we're going to get answers with this or any other docudrama, even if it was made by HBO and not Netflix. Now, in a story that is, right on headline as we are in day 3 of, verdict watch for the Richard Allen case, quote, "It is acceptable and perfectly legal." Police chief defends cops on social media for getting a man to confess to a murder that didn't happen while allegedly using psychological torture. Yeah, maybe, maybe we should definitely not do this. A police chief in California has taken to social media to defend detectives who forced a man on medication for stress, depression, and high blood pressure to confess to his own father's unaliving, which never actually happened, through use of what a federal judge calls psychological torture. We were perfect in how we handled this situation. Or were we perfect in how we handled this situation? Nobody ever is, wrote Fontana Police Chief Michael Dorsey in a November 7th statement posted to the department's X account. In situations like these, it is acceptable and perfectly legal to use different tactics and techniques, such as ruses, to elicit information from people suspected of potential criminal activity. That is what was done in this case in order to gain resolution. The problem, detectives were looking to gain resolution for a homicide that didn't exist. Thomas Perez Jr. was interrogated for 17 hours by Fontana Police Department over the disappearance of his 71-year-old father in 2018, according to a civil rights lawsuit that he settled earlier this year with the city and an interview with CNN. He was reportedly, so the father was reported missing on August the 8th of that year and was questioned that evening and the following day. Detectives David Janus and Kyle Guthrie claimed in a 2023 deposition for a civil case filed by Perez against the city of Fontana that their lieutenant had told them, quote, "something to the fact that they believed Thomas or Mr. Perez had killed his father," end quote. The detectives both admitted they had a feeling that Perez murdered his father, but couldn't prove it. The pair allegedly took Perez to a coffee shop, drove him around the town for hours while berating him about him about his dad's disappearance and looking for places where he might have dumped the body, his suit said. They also allegedly denied requests by Perez to let him take his medication he was prescribed for his stress, depression, high blood pressure, and asthma. At one point, the detective even claimed to have recovered his dad's remains, saying, quote, "he has a toe tag on him," end quote, according to the lawsuit. Interrogation footage shows them saying, "you know you killed him, you know you did." A third cop, Detective Robert Miller, was also said to have been involved. The city of Fontana wound up settling with Perez, paying him nearly $900,000 after a federal judge in California's Central District ruled in favor of letting his case move forward following a review of police footage from the interrogation. Perez's mental state, among other factors, made him a vulnerable individual, wrote Judge Dolly Gee, referring to the detective's interrogation tactics as unconstitutional psychological torture in her ruling. He was sleep deprived, mentally ill, and significantly undergoing symptoms of withdrawal from his psychiatric medications. Gee said he was berated, worn down, and pressured into a false confession after 17 hours of questioning. The officers did this with full awareness of his compromised mental and physical state and need for his medications. In his X statement, Chief Dorsey explained that while the city of Fontana was ready to end its beef with Perez and put the case to rest after a decade, he was not. Quote, our police department recently settled a lawsuit that generated misleading one-sided headlines telling the story from the point of view of the plaintiff's attorney. So here's the problem with this. The Reed technique is this is why the Reed technique is not really used by officers in Europe. If you look at European questionings, ones that they do have taped, and the person says no comment, they use something called the peace method, which is a much less confrontational, but still kind of questioning and confronting, a suspect on, okay, this doesn't make sense. You've said this before, but it's a much more or much less kind of confrontational, aggressive technique than the Reed technique. In the interest of transparency, accountability, fairness, and maintaining community trust, I wanted the community to have the facts. This was a missing person case where officers and detectives were following unfolding evidence that pointed towards a possibility of foul play. Fortunately, the man was ultimately located alive and well, and the settlement agreement, the judge on the case noted, a reasonable jury would agree with the officers that they had sufficient evidence to suspect a crime had been committed. You tortured a man without meds, and you're like, but they're making us look bad. We were totally on the case. Dudley Do Right. Okay, stop it. According to Dorsey, officers had reached out to the Perez family members and talked to a neighbor in an effort to locate his father. The neighbor described the son as mentally unstable and said he didn't have the patience, with his father. He said that the neighbor told police that somebody other than the father was seen driving his truck erratically, and it appeared to have something in the bed of the truck. A search warrant was obtained and, conducted at Perez's residence, according to Dorsey, with blood turning up on the staircase, carpet near the stairs, a couch in the garage, and a bathtub and the floor of the upstairs bathroom and adjacent to the father's room. A sheriff canine was brought in and alerted the cops to the presence of possible remains. While the detectives were driving around with Perez, Dorsey said they stopped at a golf course with a pond, and he allegedly said to them, "Don't bodies float?" This led to more suspicions about Perez, per Dorsey. We often encounter dynamic situations that require quick decisions based on where the evidence is leading us, the chief explained. Sometimes initial evidence points towards criminal activity when there's none. We constantly review our handling of situations and, when called for, adjust our policies or tactics as part of our ongoing effort to improve. Under California law, it is legal for the police to lie to suspects when trying to obtain information. Recently, science-based studies at the California Commission for Peace Officer Standards and Training, however, have led to more negative views toward deception and manipulation tactics, the San Bernardino Sun reports. Hindsight is always 2020, Dorsey said. In the moment, we were urgently searching for a missing man, and there was good reason to suspect that harm might have come to him. Sadly, situations like these can and do often end up as homicide investigations. We are so thankful that this is not one of those. I can recall a local case in the past that had similar circumstances, and the investigators were able to recover the murder victim hidden by the same individual reporting the murder victim missing. We are sorry for what the son went through, and we were grateful to learn that he and his father have been reunited. Authorities ended up finding the father at Los Angeles International Airport, awaiting a plane to Oakland to visit his daughter. What? So this is coming up with the backdrop of the Richard Allen case. Now, I will be going on with Baker, I believe, at 11 o'clock to kind of give you guys some more information about that. I am by no means, Wikipedia for the Delphi case, but I can give you sort of, as someone who's been following since this day, case has started on through to now, kind of my impressions on it. And The sad thing is that the police officer's motivations in this, police chief's motivation in this is that he wants justice. He was thinking that they were going to be finding, a dead older gentleman. And in the case of, the Richard Allen case, at the bottom of this, I have to believe for the faith of my humanity, or for my faith in humanity in general, that the police officers who did such a shoddy job and wanted that confession from Richard Allen, wanted justice for these little girls, but they are going about it in such a psychologically damaging way. I think the problem is that we are going to wake up in a couple years' time, and the Reed technique will probably be completely considered, as backwards and ridiculous as lobotomies are now. To constantly confront people when they are telling the truth and saying, "No, you're lying. We have your evidence. We have this, we have that." The Reed technique does not allow you or allow the defendant to try to have any ground on which to stand with an alternate theory. So as soon as they bring up, "I wasn't the guy there. I'm not even in here. That's yours. We've talked to this person. We've talked to that person. We know that's you. That's the person. So you can either confess or it's going to go bad on yours." People need to be so much more aware of these kind of techniques are the techniques that are going to be used, that you are not going to be able to defend yourself. That's going to be, I cannot remember. I'm not a readologist, but they do not allow you to dig into your story. So if like you, like Richard Allen, were saying, "Hey, I gave you guys what I gave you guys. I'm not the guy. You can try to pin it on me, but you have no other evidence because I wasn't there." Then you'll have, Jerry Holman come in with this ballistics report that is, absolutely bogus. But he can say, "We put your weapon there, we put this there. All we need, we're just gonna, fire up old Sparky." I do believe that, you know, America is probably going to move over to the peace method, which is much less confrontational, but also much less rife with this sort of false confession rate. So that's my crystal ball soothsaying for that one. But I have a feeling that we are going to be moving over away from the Reed technique, especially after all of the talk and all of the testimony that's been given by experts in the Richard Allen case. In this case, I mean, this cost them 90,000, no, $900,000. It's just going to become too costly to continue to use this method and a liability, at least in my opinion. Well, it looks like we found 24 of the monkeys, hopefully. Now, they were at a rally for Peanut and Fred, rest in peace, but it looks like they're getting done with their rally shenanigans and coming back home. 24 monkeys, or 24 more monkeys that escaped from a South Carolina lab are recovered and unharmed. So that's good. Looks like we're getting the monkeys back. We're getting the band back together. More than half of the monkeys bred for medical research that escaped from a compound in South Carolina last week have now been recovered unharmed. 24 monkeys that were captured on Sunday, a day after, another of the 43 escaped monkeys were recovered. A sizable group of, monkeys, escaped monkeys, remains active along the compound's fence line and have bedded down in the trees for the night. Police in Yosemite, just about 50 miles northeast of Savannah, Georgia, said in a statement. Veterinarians have been examining the animals, and initial reports indicate that they're all in good health, police say. The rhesus macaques made a break for it Wednesday after an employee at the Alpha Genesis facility in Yosemite didn't fully lock a door as she fed and, checked on them. Since their escape, the monkeys have explored the outer fence of the Alpha Genesis compound, cooing at the monkeys inside. The primates continued to interact with their companions left inside the facility Saturday, which police have said is a positive sign. Well, that's good. I guess that is a positive sign, like, "You guys are in the cage. No, you're in the cage. No, it's all a matter of perspective. Sir, stop talking about things." Alpha Genesis CEO Greg Westergaard said that the efforts to recover all the monkeys will continue on for as long as it takes. Yeah, but that last monkey's gonna be real hard to catch once, you can't find any of it. Just like the last monkey. And, just for those of us who might need all the caffeine this Monday morning, a Rhode Island man has amassed the world's largest collection of energy drink cans. A Rhode Island man with a passion for caffeine has earned a Guinness World Record for his collection of 1,019 energy drink cans. Well, how can you be caffeine man if you've never opened them? Triverton resident Joel Spears, aka Caffeine Man, on YouTube submitted evidence of the collection to the World Record Keeping Organization in January and announced this week that he's finally received official confirmation that he possesses the world's largest collection of energy drinking cans. Always have a dream. I never thought I would have a Guinness World Record for anything, he told WJIR TV. The channel started being successful and I just kept collecting cans. And at one point, I said, "Wonder how many I have." I counted them all up and it ended up being a world record. Spears, who started his YouTube channel to review energy drinks about 6 years ago, said applying for the record was surprisingly an involved process. I had to videotape the entire thing. I also had to take pictures of each and every can, and that was the time consuming part. I didn't know that they needed an itemized list of every can, so that took me a long time to type up the itemized list, and it was a long process, but worthwhile. I mean, I need an energy drink if I was going to have to work on counting and itemizing. Spears, who says he usually drinks 1 or 2 energy drinks a day, says his favorite is the Swedish fish flavor of the Ghost energy drink. Ugh, that doesn't sound very good to me, but that means that you're not taking the peach mango ones that are more my jam. So you have that, sir. So I will see you guys around 11 to talk to Baker and everyone about the Delphi case. So make sure to keep a look on that as we wait for a verdict. As I am looking right now on X, does not appear that we have uh, any news thus far except that they are now, back at court. But there you go. We can always figure out, and it looks like, just for funny news, and let me see if I can pull this up. It looks like the intrepid hometown reporter with WTHR has just been summoned for jury duty. So our own Bob Siegel has been summoned for jury duty after 2 long weeks working on the Delphi case. So, just when he thought he was going to get away from court, no, he has jury duty. Who knows? But there you go. There you have it. I will probably break in with a live, or if, the verdict comes in at any time today, I will try to break in and give you guys an update. But if you would like comprehensive coverage, always look at Andrea Burkhart. You've got Defense Diaries, you've got Lawyer Lee, you've got a bunch of different independent people that are giving you kind of the news because, well, Bob Siegel had to do a couple retractions, which he did. I will say he did them, but probably the most egregious reporting error that he made was in saying that Richard Allen's daughter did not love him, which was emphatically not the case. But he was gracious and he did fix his notes. So, you can't be mad at a person when they quickly retract and, give an update. But You know, he's probably not excited to be in court ever again, ever. So I will see you guys later on Bakers. I'm gonna go spend some time with Mr. Mo without children. What will we do? Probably laundry. But that's, another life in the glorious and romantic life of Mo. Bye, you guys. Have a great Veterans Day. And Nicola, I will work on Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for you. I will record it out and see if I can get that for you here by the end of the day. So I will see you guys all in a little bit. Bye, guys.